I started a garden, and this is just the tomatoes. As tomatoes can be planted out later on in the season, and these aren't quite tall enough to set out yet. Like I want them to get a little bit taller before I try to set these outside. And plus, I don't even have the spot set up yet. I previously used the spot I had set up for the tomatoes for the 20 onion plants that I'm attempting to grow. Even if the onions turn out to be smaller than normal, it should turn into a pretty good harvest of onions and tomatoes. And these are just the starter pods that I used to incubate the starter seeds. These are way too tall, and I need to move these into solo cups. So yeah, I just basically just need to move those into the solo cups. The ones that were in the Jiffy starter pods. And I've already moved two into the solo cups, and these were all planted at the same time. And as you see, the ones that are growing in the solo cups are a lot taller, uh, and they look a lot better than the ones that are just in the Jiffy pods right now. But technically, these could go directly into the soil right now and would be fine if the weather held out and was. Hey, this is my garden. The carrots have just now started to come up. I know I am completely bad at weed eating, and there's a thin layer of grass that I need to pluck out. But that is a lot of grass to pluck out. It'll be fine. These are the onions I started indoors. I have 25 of them. And these are the onions I started outdoors. They're starting to soy into the ground, and they're way too thick. I'll probably have to thin them or just leave them as is. But I put onions like all through here. The rest of them didn't grow. So the ones I started indoors turned out better. I might have overwatered the ones that are not indoors, but as you see, that's just the start of a little tiny garden area. I the potato I have 10 potato plants that are going to go right there. I put the cover over it just to block it so I could have easier access to the soil. Alright, and my little Jiffy pods were getting a little too tall, so I have to move my tomato plants to my Jiffy cups. Or not, did I just say Jiffy cups? I'm gonna leave that in there. Solo cups with I put 5 holes in them. I just use a knife and I very carefully poke 5 holes in the bottom of it. It usually works good for draining. And then I'm gonna backfill the tomatoes till about up to here, because that will promote more roots in a tomato plant when you put more soil on the stem when it's at its starter stage, just to get some extra roots. It's a trick to get a little extra roots in there. For those who don't know too much about tomatoes, and I'm also don't know a lot about tomatoes. I just know enough, you know. But yeah, but that's what I'm doing. I got 10 tomato plants, and I'm gonna try to take care of them this year. And this is just one of the steps I got to take before. Like I said, these take in about 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, these will be outside. 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how tall they get. I want to keep them indoors until this cup feels good enough with roots, or it's about a foot and a half tall or so, which is way too much early. I know I could put them out there now. The Jiffy pod is way down here in the bottom of the solo cup, and then you fill it up to, depending on where the leaves are. Unfortunately, these leaves had to be ripped off. Those 2 little bottom leaves that I usually like to leave. I usually bury it right up to that point. But these ones I had to... Anyway, that's what it looks like after you put it in the solo cup from the Jiffy pods. And I'm using gardening, I'm using Miracle Grow gardening soil for the ground because I plan on putting these in the ground, and I'm really cheap, and when I went to buy the garden soil, I just grabbed the first bag I seen, and it just happened to be the wrong kind. But you know, I use what I got. As cheap as I am, I did invest into two tomato cages because I plan on having at least two healthy tomatoes. Out of the 10, I actually have about 14 plants. Some of them are so small, and but this is just a 3-foot cage. This is going to be for the two best tomatoes that I consider are the best, and the rest of them, the rest of my tomatoes, I'm gonna have to either invest in some uh, cheap more cages or string a rope in between the fence and the chair. And the chair I'm talking about is that chair that I can use as an anchor. And besides the 10 tomato plants, or 14, 15 or so tomato plants I have a couple extra tomato plants that I kind of was just testing around with. I put them in the window. I plan on leaving these a little longer. Uh, I grew them a little later, but I put them in a bigger pot to test them. And they do look like they need a little water, but I am worried that I may overwater them. Even though they are in a big giant pot, the entire pot doesn't need to be watered. So you may see a little ring around the red edges, but yesterday I specifically poured water around the root system, around the base of the plant. So I'm partially uh, satisfied that they are healthy enough for this sunlight that we have today. And this is a carrot and tomato plant. There is a almost dead carrot. It's gonna die. I should have just pulled it out, but there's a one carrot in that plant, and then there's one Brussels sprout kind of in this one, and a onion, and then there's a baby onion and a baby tomato with two more tomato plants. So that's way too many tomato plants. Storm last night, and I still need to degrass this area. Uh, I'm super lazy about this. I'll probably do it on my days off. But these are my tomato plants. After the storm, they're doing pretty good. Despite that, this is actually a Brussels sprouts. There are two Brussels sprouts. These are the carrots that are completely mixed in with the grass that I need to go through there and pluck out all this grass by hand, basically, just to fix it. Uh, if I don't, if I'm not on it, I'm gonna have to be doing the same thing with all this other area. Or I kind of just need to cover this up with mulch, but I didn't buy any mulch. And as you see, these are the onions. There's most of them have about two on yeah, two leaves. Some of them have about three on it, and or need to be thinning out. There's a couple onions mixed in with the carrots a little too close. I still need to thin out. Finally weedy. This is a before. Uh, and this is an after. It may not look like a lot. I've been out here an hour picking out basically grass by hand, little tiny pieces here and there. I didn't get all of it. I did get like a good big old pile. But one thing I had to do was thin out the onions. They were bunched way too close together. They needed to be spaced out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 to 20 onions I may be able to save because they were too close. But the carrots, As you see, the carrots are doing good. There are 5 Brussels sprouts. These are Brussels sprouts. There are roughly about 5 of them. I do not think they're gonna last at all. But as you see, the sun's going down, and I did what I could.